Blackhawks, though, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Hitting the ice.
They used to be good.
That's true.
So what do you think of the return game, obviously moving past Jakeem last week, how your guys did with the opportunities they had?
Yeah, obviously they ended up kicking a bunch of touchbacks on us, and then we had that, the kickoff from the 50 at the end that they kicked a high short one on us. And, Sonoris obviously had the opportunity on that one. We had Drake back on the others. Certainly I thought Sonoris did a good job on that particular play. That's a tough one when the ball lands. When it's a short kick and the ball lands on the field, obviously you can't get a touchback in that situation. But, we've had a number of good guys back there that had the experience. Obviously, we had a couple different guys back on punt last week, both with Danny and Kenny. And so, as I've been saying all along, I think it's good to have a number of guys that can do it. And so, we're in that situation again this week. We've been repping a bunch of guys out there at practice, and kind of the more the better. The more the merrier for me. Just really kind of continue to evaluate that. And, it's unfortunate loss with Jakeem. I mean, obviously we'd love to have him back there, but it's good to have other guys on the roster with experience. So.
With Kenny and the return game or your other options, how much is it your comfort level in terms of that guy's experience that you're looking for in punt return?
Yeah, that's always a big factor. Experience is a huge factor. I mean, no different than when Jakeem first got here, right? Jakeem didn't have a bunch of punt return experience when he first, came here, and that's one of those things where you can get a bunch in practice, and you can try to simulate a jugs machine, but there's really hard to simulate live action with gunners coming at you and live ball, and the ball comes off the punter's foot, definitely different than a jugs machine. So. Experience definitely helps. Now, a guy like Kenny has been doing it, his whole life, since he was a little kid in high school and college, and so that's always a positive. And but certainly the more experience, the better there. No different than with Danny Amendola or Kenny or those guys. Some guys have more kick return experience than punt, and it's a completely different game. And so I would totally agree that the experience factor is definitely a positive.
In a week like this, where you've basically got to try out guys, do you make sure that they're getting the real kicks instead of a jugs machine?
Yeah, so for example, the way we practice, everybody's different, but the way we practice, Wednesday and Thursday are the days that Matt Hawk is kind of live foot, if you will. But you got to remember he's lefty, and we're playing a right-footed punter this week, so we actually it's a completely different, believe it or not, it's a completely different ball that comes off the foot, the rotation and all that. So we have a jugs that goes lefty and righty to get the different rotations. So they got live work off of Matt, but then also have to get simulated work with a right ball rotation there, and so you try to get as much as you can. And certainly the last couple of days, those guys have gotten live ball reps. Tomorrow they'll get some more, off the jugs, and we'll just get as many as we can. That's really the way we do it.
It's the type of year where they have coaching candidates come up. What's sort of your thought on special teams coaches and their chances to become head coaches?
Yeah, obviously you look at the history of the league, and there hasn't been a ton of guys that have gone from special teams coordinator to head coach. Obviously, the one that everybody talks about is John Harbaugh, and you really look at the job and the resume that he's put together. He's won a Super Bowl. It's a difficult thing for a special teams coach to go from. It takes a lot of faith in a front office and an owner, because you're stepping outside the box a little bit. Now, my feeling on it is special teams coaches may be as well prepared as anybody to run a football team. You're the only guy in the building that's really dealing with the entire football team. You're coaching everybody. You're dealing with situations, the game management, those types of things. So I think there's a lot of qualified special teams coaches right now in the league that would be terrific head coaches. And I think John Harbaugh is, again, a great example of a guy that that did it and has done it and has put together a tremendous resume. He's one of the best game managers in football. You look at the history of a lot of the guys, a lot of coaching history of some of the guys that are head coaches right now. A guy like Bill Belichick was a special teams coordinator, and I could sit here and list a bunch of different guys that have a special teams coordinator on their resume. Again, it's just a little bit of it's not the norm, if you will. And sometimes you get in a situation where, there's a lot of times where, guys want to win the press conference, if you will, and maybe get the sexiest name out there is maybe a play caller or something like that. But a lot of times when you kind of dive into it, a special teams coach could be the best option. And so obviously I'm a little bit biased towards it. I believe that a lot of my counterparts in the league are very qualified to do it and would be terrific head coaches.
Sitting here in front of one special teams coach, what do you feel like your readiness or desire to be a head coach is at this point? Well,
I've been a head coach. Obviously, I've been fortunate to be a head coach in college, and it was a great experience. certainly if that opportunity presents itself, down the road and when the season's over, you're always things you're going to look at. But obviously, my biggest concern right now is Buffalo and finishing out the season strong, and then you worry about opportunities, after the season. But it's something that I certainly look, as I look forward in my personal career, it's something I want to do again, and down the road and be a head coach again. And I had a great experience doing it. I love doing it, and I think with the role I have here on this football team is preparing me to be a head coach, because I deal with, obviously, like I said, I deal with the players every day. I deal with the game management part of the game. I'm very fortunate that Adam gives me that role, and it's really helping my, my personal resume, if you will, in terms of, learning on the job and. Dealing with the management, the game management, the time management, all that stuff is really preparing me. So I think when the opportunity presents itself, I'll be very, very well, prepared and be ready to go.
Darren, if I might ask, any colleges reach out to you in the past year about being a head coach?
Oh, Barry, I don't want to go down that road. I'm gonna pass on that one if for right now. But we could talk about that after the season. But I think right now during the season, I'm just going to really concentrate on our schedule and on the Buffalo. But I appreciate the question. Don't get me wrong. But I don't want to start throwing things out.
So that's a yes.
I'm going to pass on the question.
Whoa, we were all thinking it, but you said it. Right.
Darren, Chris Lamons, the rookie you guys signed on the practice squad. What are some things you like about him? I know during the last preseason game he got a pick off of Fails. In that game, what are some things that he brings to the table for you guys?
Yeah, you know what? The truth is I had my first conversation with Chris today. I know him as a player a little bit. We played him in the preseason with Atlanta. I know he's bounced around between Atlanta and New Orleans. Watching him here the last couple of days, I like his athleticism. I've watched him, play on our scout teams in all 4 phases. He's a local guy from Plantation. I know his high school coach, Steve Davis, real well from Plantation High School. I've known him for a long time, and so just in my short dealings with him so far, really, really good kid, and I like what I see. But it's just been a small sample size. All I've dealt with him so far is based off of film and watching him play. And I can remember him flashing as both a defensive back and a special teams player. And so I'm happy to have him here and continue to work with him. I always love to gather as many of those guys as we can in the practice squad that have potential to maybe help us down the road on special teams. And we can sit here and go and list many, many guys over my 10 years that have, that was their way in the building. And next thing you know, the next year or whatever, now all of a sudden they find themselves in a role for, as a special teams guy. So I think Chris is a great example of that. As a guy that potentially, could help us down the road, because I really like his athleticism. Seems like a very bright kid and good personality and ready to go. And so far, so good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.